Okay.
Okay, bop. Press the live button. Got my own recording. Nothing should go terribly wrong. People allegedly can hear us in chat. I can hear myself. Awesome. Okay, let's get into this disaster. So let me just pop this open. It's a good timestamp. Oh my god. Okay. Hello, everybody. And welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network, link 211. I really wanted to say 211, but that would have sounded even more weird. I am your sometimes erratic and usually weekly host, Spencer Presley. Joining me for this very, very special episode, this is a big one. You all need to realize how big of a deal this is. You guys are listening to this, so whether it be live or pre-recorded. I'm here with two people who I'm pretty sure were the voice cast in Xenoblade Chronicles. Marcus and Sandeep. How's it going, you guys?
Hey, Spencer. Hey, Marcus.
Hello, mate.
The fact that got no react, I thought of that earlier at work. I thought, oh, that'll be so funny, just to make the dumb all British people are that failed so bad that if I had any sense of professionalism, I would start it over. But we're not doing that.
It didn't fall completely flat. I had a bit of it to myself. I just didn't want to speak at the same time as Sandeep.
Listen, this is gonna be.
I haven't played Xenoblade, so yeah.
No! You don't even have an excuse. You have a Switch. Why have you not played Xenoblade Chronicles?
I've got it. I just not started it.
Oh my gosh!
You should have said something like Lord of the Rings or something.
No, I mean, I don't know why I associate Lord of the Rings with New Zealand more than anything. It's really weird. But wow, that's not a good way to start your reputation by saying you've not played Xenoblade Chronicles. But at least you own it. You've done the hard part. You bought a copy. It's sitting there. You just got to dedicate 100 hours of your life, and then you can get into it. But hey, let's get into who these people are. And no, unfortunately, they are not actually voice actors from Xenoblade Chronicles.
I wish.
You wish. Marcus, first hard question before you introduce yourself. If you had to be a voice actor in, let's just say the next Xenoblade game, who would you want to be and why?
So, I guess, would we base this on existing characters?
No, we're taking, are you wanting to be, random extra, number 300, main character, big anime titty girl? Who are you calling dibs on, if you had your say?
I think I'd honestly want to be part of the supporting cast, a role like Dunban or Ryan would fit me.
Would you, if you had the ability while recording, would you think, should I meme, because you have to, think, at no point when they were doing Xenoblade Chronicles were they oh, this line will be a great meme 10 years from now. No one recording those lines were oh, this will be memorable. Would you do it on purpose, or would you just see what happens naturally?
No, I definitely take it professionally and see what kind of memes pan out way out from the project and have a laugh further down the line. That's
the difference between you and me. So when I'm not asking you terrible questions, Marcus, who are you? How much do you want the internet to know about you? And how are you doing today?
I am a 25-year-old man from England, specifically South London. I got into SMT through a mutual friend where I first played Persona 3 FES on an emulator, and then it was late 2014, and he was just talking about the ports of, well, not the port, but the release of SMT4 on 3DS, and I was like, I'll give this a go, and the rest is practically history.
So, Sandeep, for you, you've been on this channel before, but this is actually your first time being on the SMTN podcast. So, for anyone out there who doesn't know about you or your channel, who are you? Who is too old for gaming? And how did you make your Google SEO so good for something with so many numbers?
Oh, I didn't even think it was that good. Okay.
I looked it up. I looked it up in incognito mode. I thought your channel would be the first thing that comes up. You'd be very happy to know it's website, store link, and then your channel. And I think that's proper order.
Excellent. That's a complete accident. So that's great. So I'm Sandeep Fry, channel name Too Old for Gaming with 2 and 4 the numbers. So I've been a Vita YouTuber since 2013, I think was my first video I put up. So I didn't post too much at the beginning, but I've been posting a lot about the Vita since then, and just really enjoying covering the Vita, reviewing games, and just generally loving the system.
Okay, so really happy to have both of you on here for multiple different reasons. But what's so funny about it is we've got so much news to talk about that is like literally, I don't know how you guys feel. A week ago, when the rumor sort of came out, oh hey, Sony's probably shutting down the store. For me, when I heard that, like that the PS3, Vita, and PSP store were getting shut down, it didn't like hit me. It didn't like hit me as like, oh man, that's really bad. Because like for whatever reason, in the back of my head, I was like, I don't expect it like to stay up forever, but because it was still so vaguely reported, it didn't hit me at all in any weird way until literally on Monday when it then hit, and I was like, oh okay, this sucks. This is terrible. And then the collector in me. Because I'm easily like the biggest like collector physically out of like both of you two for good reasons. Don't ever be jealous of anyone who's a physical collector. You'll never have money. The physical market has already just been like going into like absolute panic mode. Like if physical collecting for Vita games was the Titanic, this was our iceberg. Like everything is just in oh shit buying fever panic mode. So it's just like, oh god, like there were like so many different like little things of like repercussions of do you guys ever have moments of looking at things like oh, I can pick that up down the line. That'll stay cheap and pretty readily available forever. And then, like, you have that moment either when it's too late or when you think it's going to be too late, where you're just like, oh god, like I'm so screwed. Like I got to pick this up, or I'm like going to regret it later and have to pay like 3 figures.
Oh yeah, definitely. I actually just bought another Vita today, a blue one, and it's
you have like what, 4?
More. No, 7. So this is number 8. But I didn't have any. I know I had black, white, and grey and silver. So I thought I got to get a coloured one, and I was looking at a blue one a few months ago, and it's about £30 more expensive now. But I thought, just do it, just get it now while it's still there.
I love the like. I have 3, and I already feel like that's too many, and it's like really funny. But like, okay, so before we get into it, because I want to give a little bit of backstory in case people don't know the terrible news. Quick question I like to always ask people when they come on for the first time, just kind of gives a good idea. Also, Sandeep, just because I guess you were on the show for it, what is your history with either SMT or Persona or Atlus, whatever one came first?
So, first Persona game I played was Persona 4 Golden on the Vita. Then completely loved that. Awesome game. Then, since then, played Persona 5, the dancing games. I'm still playing Persona 5 Strikers now. I played Persona 3 as well. So it was the Vita and Persona 4 Golden that got me into the series.
And as the entire internet knows, no one has ever recommended Persona 4 Golden for the Vita. It's definitely not one of those games that no one can shut up about. Now, actually, Marcus, you're like the most outside of like the conversation, at least specifically with Vita stuff. For you, yes, as someone who doesn't have one, does it seem like people never, like, does it seem like you can never go a conversation without hearing the Vita and someone recommending Persona? Because, like, for me, it like, say if someone's doing a list or recommendation, I feel like you shouldn't even bring it up. It's like water. It's like, why even add it to the list? Everyone is going to get it anyway. Like, no one is not going to either play or want to play Persona 4 Golden if they are even remotely interested in. But, like, for, like, something like you, like, does it have that big of a strong association, or do you still just think of Persona 4 as just Persona 4?
I mean, I think if you're definitely entrenched in the fandom, you definitely know about the expanded edition of 4 through the Vita release. So, yeah, it really is just, like, something you expect of anyone that's really already in the fandom. So if it's anyone that's new, they'll probably be the ones to recommend that sort of thing too. But other than that, no. I think most people already know.
So, like Sandeep, like, I don't know about, like, for you, but, like you just re-uploaded your compilation of, like, your top 100 games, and a lot of people are now doing, like, recommending lists and stuff like that for, like, the Vita. Like, for you, do you ever get to a point where, like, I can only recommend this game so much? Like, we're going to, like, eventually hit the well in terms of recommending the game. Like, not to the game's detriment, but it's just literally, it's like, I feel like no one can be sold on this game any more than they have over the last 8 years.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that. I think I've spoken about Darkest Dungeon, Ys 8, and Soul Sacrifice, those games so many times. I do think sometimes I should probably stop mentioning them just because everyone's heard this too many times now.
Like I was listening to PS I Love You XOXO, the Kind of Funny PlayStation podcast. I don't normally listen to it that much, but they were doing like a top 15 Vita games before the store closes list. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and immediately like got a huge like cut off at the legs, because like halfway into starting the list they were like, oh, we should do PSP games too, and I'm like, oh no, because like you can't do that. That's like saying like, oh, what's the 5 best PS5 games right now, and you talk about like Bloodborne, Dark Souls, and Sekiro. It's like, yeah, they play great on PS5, but like you're not gonna sell someone on like the backwards compatible stuff. But like the other thing that I thought was so funny was like they took one of their 15 slots for Persona. Like, no, it doesn't get a slot. It's like, if I could go back in time and put Welcome Park and just replace it with Persona 4 Golden, I think that's how universally played that is. It's just like, you know what, honestly, I bet more people have played Persona 4 Golden than Welcome Park on the Vita. And that's pre-installed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
So going back, though, to a bit of your history, though, Sandeep, what is one game, now I know you said you're playing Strikers, but what's one game for you in this series, whether it be Persona or SMT, that's kind of like at the top of your pile of shame, where you're like, oh, dude, I really got to get into that?
I had not touched Persona 1 and 2, and I do want to get back to them at some point. I've got them both downloaded as well. I've downloaded, got it, all the whole library that's available in the Vita. I've got it. I need to make time for those at some point.
Now, in Europe, I was actually doing some research because of all the different storefronts and stuff. Did you guys ever get Persona 2, the classic version of Eternal Punishment? Because I know in the West we did, but like obviously no one ever published that originally there. So is that not in your classic section?
No, I don't think we got that one. Is that the PS1 version, I think?
Yeah, because we never got Eternal Punishment on PSP, so Atlus basically was like, oh, here's the PS1 version no one wanted.
No, I don't think we got that one. But actually, now that you've said it, I'll make sure I go on my US Vita and download that too.
Yeah, before the store is taken down.
Yeah, I think it's like $6, so like that one's not really that big of a deal. But hey, you guys won out anyways. I mean, you guys got Mach and Shao, so I guess you get... That's probably the better game. That might be a controversial thing, but no one here has probably played Mach and Shao, so I feel comfortable saying that.
That's a take saying that's better than P1 or 2.
I mean, in terms of recommending what people buy, I think it's there's more novelty to Mach and Shao as a European-only English release than like Persona 2, where it's like, I mean, there are other ways to play Persona 2. Like, don't worry that much, but... No, yeah, I was thinking the same thing as well, though, Sandeep, just because I've played them all on PSP, P1 and P2, the PSP remakes, but I never bought them digitally, and I'm like, honestly, I'd rather just have a digital version as a backup to be able to play conveniently, because, like, I love those PSP remakes and stuff for it, and they're so cheap. Like, they're like $10 even now, not on sale. So it's definitely going to be in part of those, like, last-minute purchases of, like, just get it just to have it. Just, like, for like, last-minute convenience. Just, especially because, even though I know you have, like, a jailbroken PSP, like, it'd be a lot easier for you with, like, a jailbroken Vita. Whereas, like, I want it to be as legally easy and financially cheap as possible to, like, enjoy those games, and, like, buying a digital copy, like, I normally never double dip for digital things, but that'll definitely be one I think I go in and also replay, because it's just been, like, so long. Marcus, because I know you had a PSP, right?
I still do have my PSP, yeah.
Did you play, at time of release, P1 and P2?
I think it was, like, 2016, I bought Innocent Sin for PSP. Went all the way through it within like a month or two. Haven't really got back to doing like another playthrough since, but I did a lot in that one go. One, I haven't given a play on the PSP. Emulated it once, but it was a bit jank.
That's like such a weird feeling for me to hear PSP emulation is jank, because I feel like now it's like anything with an Android from the last 4 years can do it.
Oh, I meant PS1 emulation. Before,
Oh, okay. Okay,
Android emulators.
Yeah. That one will definitely be a little more mileage may vary, but also doesn't help that, like, those original versions are just so rough.
Yeah.
So Marcus, though, for you, what is at like the top of your pile of shame? Whether it be because you haven't bought it yet, played it yet, like what's like your like SMT like tippy top of I gotta get around to playing this and beating it.
Well, there's a primary one that I can think of, and then there's a runner-up that you already know about. The first most important one would be that I haven't yet got on Desu 2. Even though I own a US copy. And then the runner-up is me picking back up Royal, over a year since it came out. Because it isn't so far removed from the original P5 experience. So, for me, I get so far through it and I'm like, oh, it's episodic.
Did you not look at the bag on the table?
I'm going to put this down for now, because I can only take so much.
Stuffy there.
And then I'll go and play Dark Souls for the 7th time or something.
So, sorry, I had a weird... the wife came in and I had to... She came in and saw I was, like, eating Chipotle in the middle of this because I haven't eaten all day. She had that look on her face like, why'd you only get food for yourself? And I was like, no, there's food out there. You just missed the giant bag I put on the table. So, also, just like any advice for anyone, no matter like if you are with a friend or in a relationship, never just buy food for yourself. No matter what situation you think you may be in, as soon as your significant other comes in and there is not food for them as well for you to eat, it's just immediately like you can't get out of that situation. Sandeep, you're married. You can attest to this, right? Have you ever accidentally like broken the food rule of like you're coming home from work, you get something for yourself, and then they find out that you only got food for yourself?
No, I'm pretty good at doing that. Although my wife has done that a few times to me.
No, the wife can do that. The wife can do that. That's fine. No, we can't. No.
Yeah, but not when it's crisps or chocolates. That's when it shouldn't happen. So.
Now, I was actually going to throw some of the blame back on you as well. Not blame, but I was going to make Marcus feel a little bit better. Because, Sandeep, you also have not beat Royal yet, right? Like, how far into it are you? Or have you even started it up yet?
No, I haven't played Royal. So, actually, if you wanted a kind of a shame in terms of Persona series, I didn't finish Persona 5. So, I was, I think, 95 hours in, and I was on... No, I haven't finished the casino. So I was 95 hours in.
That's really funny, because, like, if you had beaten the casino, I would have understood it. But, like, literally, for me, I wouldn't even recommend beating it, because, like, literally, the game is all downhill from there. The next 2 final dungeons are, like, the worst in the whole game for me. So, yeah, at that point, like, you picked the best part. Like, I actually like the casino dungeon. It has some grindiness to it that's a little bit, like, annoying. But that is funny. Like, you stopped right before it gets worse.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I got 95 hours in, and then I just wanted to see how much more story time is there left in the game. And so I looked up one of those videos, like all the cutscenes of Persona 5. And it was like 15 hours, and I thought, man, it's 95 hours, 15 hours of cutscene. It's probably another 30 hours of gameplay. It's like, I can't do this. It's like I was just done. So
now,
I stopped and just watched the videos.
Now, like, so Marcus, like, for you were kind of agreeing with me there. Like, how do you feel like when you beat a game, especially like RPGs and stuff? Like, how do you feel when you beat a game and you like actually finish that final phase of the final boss? And then there's, like, 19 hours of cutscenes you gotta watch afterwards of saying goodbye to everyone from the homeless guy in the train station to, like, the main characters.
I've never known an example that was that egregious, but, like, some come close, where it's, like, an epilogue of cutscenes. Where they try to outdo Metal Gear Solid 4 in terms of just how much there is to watch and not play.
See, this is why I invited you on. This is why we're soulmates separated by the ocean. Okay, so that is like the only exception I ever give is Metal Gear Solid endings. Those take as long as you want. Don't worry about it, baby. I trust you. You're not wasting my time in a Metal Gear ending. Like no one's finishing Metal Gear Solid 4 and going like, oh, do we need to see Johnny's wedding? Yes, we do. I need to see Johnny getting married to Meryl. Spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 4. Does he shit himself Does he shit himself down the aisle? This might happen. I don't.
His tuxedo.
Sandeep, please interject really quick. Any thoughts on Metal Gear? I've known you for so many years. I don't think we've ever talked about Metal Gear Solid. Is it a thing? Is that a thing for you? Because we're very much stands of that here.
Oh, completely love the Metal Gear series. Even 5, a lot of people complain about it, but I loved it. I thought the ending was awesome. I just wish Kojima had a chance to finish that game properly.
So we can all agree that Metal Gear Survive is the best game in the series, right?
I'll tell you when I play it. That's another game I've got.
It's so cheap.
Cheaply.
It's so cheap.
Yeah.
My God, that game is so cheap. That's like literally like Marcus. Isn't that how I sold it to you? It was like, dude, it was like $5 here new, and then you were like, oh, I'll pick it up. It's $5. How bad can it be?
I was going to say, it's not only cheap to buy, it was probably like a cheap asset flip, and they got some sort of gain in air quotes out of it, but
I will always attest. I want to do a video on it at one point. There's no way to be timely with Metal Gear Survive content, but I really want to do a video explaining why I don't think Metal Gear Survive is better than 5, but I think it has a better overworld. Metal Gear Solid 5's overworld is so big, but is so empty and boring. But like Survive is very truncated. It's very particularly designed, and I really like that about it. But, like, God forbid anyone ever say anything nice about that game. But no, like, so going back to my dumb point, though, of, like, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but, like, when you beat, like, these, like, 100-plus hour games and stuff, do you find those long endings, like, usually rewarding? Because I feel like, unless it's something really special or something that really vibes with me in a way, like a Final Fantasy or a Kingdom Hearts, and even like some, like I think Persona 4 Golden has like a good ending for the most part in terms of its like speed of like the pacing that it does for it, but something like Persona 5 especially was just like, oh my God, like they dragged out that ending like almost to a comedic level.
Yeah, I think I do generally appreciate the endings of long games. I don't mind just sitting there and sitting back and just kind of watching, feeling like I've earned it. But I did think Metal Gear Solid 4 was too long. I remember when I beat that, it was something silly, like it was 1 a.m. on a Saturday. I played it like 3 days straight or 2 days straight from when it came out. And so I was thinking at that point, like, please just end. I want to go to sleep now.
It's like, well, because remember, that was the whole, like, when reviews were out before the game was, like, do you guys remember the lead up to MGS4 was literally, like, it's a movie. The ending is just a full-length movie.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was the discourse.
The thing, though, I did want to say kind of in the test of it, I literally just yesterday beat Strikers. And I was so happy that from ending to from killing the final boss to credits, it's like 20 minutes. It was so like it respected your time so well. I just really liked it. Of one of those things of like I don't think about that a lot, but I think there's a lot more examples of games stretching out their ending way more than it kind of needs to be. And like I said, in some games it totally deserves it, and then other ones it's just kind of like a lot more uneven. Boy, when I said this was going to be fast and loose, I apparently meant it. It's the almost 20-something minutes into the show, we've talked more about Metal Gear Solid 5. So, introductions aside, bad news, everybody. Sony hates our money. They hate us buying their games. And if you have a PlayStation 3, a PSP, or a PlayStation Vita, they are shutting down the store. So, what does that mean? So, basically, in June, messaging is getting shut down for the Vita, and I actually don't have the hard dates in front of me here, so if anyone wants to correct me while I'm like looking this up, I think it's July is when the PSP and the PS3 storage shut down, and August is when the Vita store is shut down. So what that means, when the stores are shut down in all regions, you will be able to download your games you've purchased again, but you cannot buy anything else, even if something is free, even if something was like... the only situation where you would still be able to technically add new games to your list is if you redeem codes, or if something was like cross-buy. So say something like a Hotline Miami, if you bought the PlayStation 4 version, and then you go to your download list in your Vita or PS3, then you could play that version that way. But those are going to be very, very small edge cases. So before we kind of get into the bigger topic, I wanted to get all three of everyone's sort of opinion of when that news hit, what did you think about it, and like where are you at right now with it? So Marcus, I want to go for you because we've talked the least about this, you and me. So when you heard that all three of those stores were shutting, what was your reaction like?
Well, with the only things that really like piqued my interest on like the PS3's eStore being like the ports from PS2 for games that I already own, like Nocturne and the DDS's. I'm like,
I'm sorry, what? What's that in-name game? What? I've never heard. What's Nocturne? On this call, we call it Lucifer's Call here. We don't call it Nocturne. This is...
Oh, pardon me. It was localized as Lucifer's Call. Yeah.
What? Is that like a failure of the game's fault? Like, is it the game's fault that it's called Lucifer's Call, or is Nocturne just that better of a name? Like, I've literally never heard anyone call it Lucifer's Call.
That's like a conversation to be had, maybe closer to the topic of like Nocturne later in.
Okay.
And we can discuss about like how that thing was, like localized in somewhere that wasn't America. But I guess because like I wasn't on the PS3 generation, like everybody else seemingly around me. Because I owned a 360 when I was like a teenager, and really only started playing PlayStation like when I actually had a PS2 and a PS4. So their stores being taken down is sad that they move ahead with the times, but you have to expect it with their like continuing live service.
Well, like
storefront.
As someone who's like is even still pretty interested in the like Xbox marketplace, whether you like know it or not, like looking even at like how Xbox is still doing backwards compatible stuff. Like I don't know if you guys saw today, Microsoft literally announced on Game Pass streaming or whatever it's called. On like your phones, you used to only be able to stream Game Pass games on Xbox One, but now you can do original Xbox and 360 titles like Viva Pinata, Halo 3, and like blah blah. Well, I think actually Halo was playable before, but that was because like Master Chief Collection stuff. But yes. Like say stuff like Crackdown and all that other ones, like it's just so funny. Like by comparison, like Microsoft is still supporting original Xbox games. Like we can't even get PlayStation to release a PS2 port without it being charged for like $50 and stuff now. So like it's just so funny, like the dichotomy of it, and like it's kind of sad. Of like I think the sad part about why it's it's compared a lot in terms of like, oh, Microsoft is better at this aspect than Sony. The problem is there's not as much nostalgia in the world for Xbox and its lineage as PlayStation.
And I mean that's part of the problem. It's that they're shutting down the stores and getting rid of everything when people love their games. Just doesn't make sense to me why they would take this action, or at least not have thought about a proper solution for, to preserve these games in some way.
I think a good comparison, and I'd be curious what you all thought of this. How did you guys feel when the Wii Shop closed down? Like, do you guys remember a couple of years back when Nintendo announced, hey, we're shutting down the Wii Shop. All your stuff, if you downloaded it, whatever's on your system is yours. We're cutting off everything. You can't download things again. You're not going to get your money back. You can't get any more games. Like, when that happened, I was like, well, that's stupid you can't re-download stuff anymore. But for me, even as someone who loves Nintendo so much, that store shutting down didn't hit me as hard as this. And I was really, really involved with the Wii. And it was just one of those weird things of, like, for whatever reason, like, and maybe it's because it's 3 generations of systems at once kind of getting basically decapitated, for lack of a better word. It was just like so weird of like, yeah, the Wii stuff, losing Virtual Console games didn't make me upset, but like losing PlayStation 1 classics, like that's going to hit hard. Like, so for you...
Yeah, I agree.
So like Sandeep, kind of giving the same question I gave to Marcus over to you. When the store hit, obviously it's gonna be like a little bit more. Like as someone who actively covers like the Vita so much, like what did you think? Like when you like heard it was official, like was it one of those like for me, I'm probably like over dramatizing this, but like I literally was like shocked. I was like I said a very loud expletive, and then I immediately started thinking, oh god, how many digital games am I gonna have to buy?
Well, I when I heard the rumor firstly, so last week, I believed it straight away. I could definitely see. At the time I thought, yeah, Sony would definitely do this. So it wasn't surprising. I started reaching out to different developers that I'm speaking to and asking them, like, is this true? Have you heard anything? And one of them basically said that they were not able to release any games anymore. Actually, no, two of them said they couldn't release any games anymore. One was giving me more information, so I thought, okay, this is happening. So when the news came out, it was like, okay, it's happened now. Now what? Now I've got to think about turning my PS3 on for the first time in like 5 years and trying to download stuff.
Can I just say, what I love is when I watched your video, because you did a video before it was official, right? Kind of talking about everything.
Yep.
When you were talking about that video of like, oh, I've talked to a couple of devs anonymously, I know exactly who you were talking about without even having to ask you off the record. Just because, like, Marcus, there are so few devs still making Vita games in 2021. It's like, I can, like, count them all on, like, two hands. Like,
that wouldn't really surprise me, considering that it's, like, years old hardware.
It was just so funny because, like, literally the verbiage you used in your video and talking about it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is probably like Top Hat, and like this is probably like blah 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 or whatever. And it was just so funny of like, because like I've reached out to them as well, and I know understand how they talk, and like it's so funny of like, you think, I don't even know. Like, I love how open Vita developers were in almost like a way that kind of like sucks for them, because I'm a little saddened this hasn't been talked about more. Like, obviously, no one was making any new PS3 games. No one was making any new PSP games. But literally, people can't... Like, I know at least 5 now projects got canceled on Monday when that news hit. Like, people were working on Vita dev kits and just went, oh, fuck this. Like, and as a developer, can you blame them? Like, imagine, like, you're working on a group project that you think is due in April. And then the week before April, they're like, hey, where's that project? Like, why are you even going to work on it then? It's like, well, I'm not going to be done in time, so I'm just wasting my time.
Yeah, exactly. It's rubbish. For the guys that were still working on it, I think the Lilymo Games said that same day the announcement came out, they were literally working on their next game for Vita. And then they heard about it, and it's like, okay.
I felt so bad for Lilymo. So Lilymo Games, if anyone doesn't know, they made Perils of Baking, Habroxia 1 and 2. Habroxia 2 literally just came out like a month ago. And Twinbreaker. And they were working on another game, and I remember I asked Barry from Lilymo, I was like, because now that physical shutoffs were done, like, honestly, Sandeep, I don't know about it for you, when East Asia Soft did the last of their physical runs, I went, okay, that's probably it for digital games. Because, like, we know that, like, if you're putting a game out digitally on Vita and there's not a physical version, you're just losing money. There's no way you're going to make up that, like, time and effort and, like, things you have to do to put it in there. So every one of those digital games is basically a labor of love. And they do not expect to make money for it. But it was so funny, like, I asked Barry, and I was like, oh, so why are you guys doing your next game on Vita? Like, I was happy, and I was going to support it and buy it. But it was just so funny of, like, they just wanted to do it. Like, they all love that system so much, and they know that community wants to play stuff there. Like, it's not enough to just remote play it. Or, like, the amount of people I know who love playing games on the Vita, like, I know that there were people out there who were like this, and there are still probably going to be more. Like, when I heard that the Vita store is getting shut down, we're basically, like, going to get a very tiny handful of new games from now, and I wasn't like, oh, well, F this, I'm going to Switch. Because it's, like, it's so different. It's, like, just because something's supporting, like, is still being supported, doesn't mean, like, you're going to kind of immediately move to it. Like, look at all those people who had a 3DS. Like, I think all of us have a 3DS. None of us, when the 3DS died, went, okay, all of my attention goes to Switch now. Like, we all went to, like,
Nice.
PlayStation or other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'll still be playing Vita for a while, and I was thinking it's almost a good excuse to actually delve into the backlog, finally, instead of just buying new games all
Oh,
the time.
I know. Like, that was... When physical got shut down, I remember telling my wife, like, I told her, I am so happy and sad at the same time. And she's like, why? Like, are you sad you're not going to get more games? Because think about it. Once they are unable to make new games physically anymore, you can just finally catch up and play and buy whatever you want. And obviously market prices are going to kind of change for that, but like someone like you, like Sandeep, like you're not like as much of a collector as me. Like I'm not a full set collector by any means, but you and me both have a very wide breadth of games we want to play on the Vita and stuff like that. So like both of us have just got these insane backlogs, and I always find it funny, like on your live stream on Monday, someone was like, oh, what are you going to do with the channel now? And I'm like, the amount of games you and me both have left to play, we could probably have another 10 years of either playing through stuff or trying to get through stuff.
Yeah, easily. Like, I was downloading things onto my PS3, just going through my download list. It's easier to look at than the Vita one. And I made a note of about 20, 25 games for Vita that I need to just download at some point and put them on a spare memory card or something, just that I've never even touched before. So I'll get to them all at some point. This is a good excuse to try and deal with all these games. And I can talk about them for years on my channel, like you said.
Were there moments for you of like when you saw the story? Like, was there that one game where you had like an oh shit, before I get shut down, I've got to get this? Because for me, and this is so funny that this was like the first one that comes to mind, it was SteamWorld Dig 2, because it still doesn't have a physical. And I'm at this point now where like I just kept holding off because I was like, I cannot believe that nobody made this happen or whatever. And it was just one of those things of like, I'll buy it. Like, I don't care. It was never about the money. It was just because I didn't want to have to buy a digital and then immediately the physical would come out. But I, like, for whatever reason, like, that was the first game that popped in my head, and like immediately right behind it was XCOM, because XCOM was another one that I knew XCOM was never going to get physical, even though I always thought it was dumb it didn't. But that was always like two big games where I was like, why didn't I buy these? Like, I would love playing these on here, but I never picked them up.
Yeah, they're both brilliant. Really good. XCOM does have performance issues, but otherwise it's a great game.
Hey man, I'm waiting for my copy of Project Sense. Give me, I've platinumed Borderlands 2. I'll get as dirty as ports when I get. Honestly, like when a game on the it's rare that I get mad. Like as long as it doesn't crash, I like when I see ports that are like barely handling like the system. Like I think it's like so funny because it just shows two things. And I think none of these are good, but it just interests me like from a technical aspect. When I see a port that's in really rough shape, it either tells me this dev barely made this work on the system, or this dev is, or maybe it's the hardware's fault. Like, obviously it's easier to blame like the developers, but it's so funny of like looking at launch games like Uncharted Golden Abyss, or even stuff like Ys 8 or Catherine Full Body. Those all run amazingly. They are not full clocking the system. They're not limiting features. They all look like amazing, amazing titles. And then you look at like some 2D indie platformer, primarily made of like pixel art, and it's like crashing every 3 stages or whatever, and all these things. Like what happened here? Like, is it just a money issue? Like the discrepancy in developers are so funny. Like, oh my god, Molten Sky Iron in the chat brings up a great point. Resident Evil Revelations 2. It's like, how did this get through CERT? Like, I love that it's on the system, but they are literally different games. Like playing that on PS4 or Vita, it's like, who made these games?
God, yeah. I played it on Switch as well, and it's just complete night and day. When I went back to the Vita version, it's like, oh my god, this is way worse than I remember it. But it's still playable. It's still playable, but just pretty downgraded compared to the console ones.
I only get like disappointed or mad when I can't beat a game. Like it's that bad that you can't beat it, or that like stuff on it is broken. Like I'll never forget how like much of a sad loser I was when I probably sunk like 60 hours into Night Trap on Vita when that patch finally went. And when I found out that there was like one unlock queue that was bugged and I couldn't get the platinum, it was just immediately, it was just so soul crushing of like, and I know like trophies, it's definitely a hey if you care about it kind of thing, but it was just so funny of like, because I could do it all, like the game is still fine to recommend. Like you can still play through the entirety of Night Trap on Vita, but for someone who's really into trophies like me, not having that little extra final step be kind of glitched just always sort of like leaves a dark cloud over it for me.
Yeah, it's like a sunk cost, effectively. Yeah,
it's like think of like when the Master Chief Collection launched. On paper, It's great. Like, even at launch, the single-player stuff was there. It was a crazy collection and blah, blah, blah. But because multiplayer was fucked up, it killed all of the positives that game had running for it. Like, think about it. When people talk about the Master Chief Collection, what's like the one new big feature that no one ever talks about? They remade Halo 2. No one talks about that was in the Master Chief Collection. That's the only way to play that. They just talk about how broken it was.
I'd contest that. I'd say that anyone that knows their stuff about Halo was always incredibly impressed by like the Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes, just how well those are rendered. Though it's like pre-rendered, like really nice CG, it's like it's completely different to the original Halo 2 experience.
Mm-hmm.
But you can appreciate both because they're fantastic in their own right. But yeah, the matchmaking in Master Chief Collection leaves a lot to be desired.
Now, Marcus, I don't know if you remember, does Halo 2 Anniversary have the like toggle back and forth feature, like Anniversary for CE?
I believe it does, but I haven't played it on computer as of yet. I've only ever played Halo 2 Anniversary on console, so that's like a question I'd have to answer if like I had it right in front of me.
No, you're good. So Sandeep, kind of like getting around like the Vita conversation one more time. When you heard that news drop, obviously you weren't surprised. Were there any games that you were like, okay, I gotta get this? Like, what was anything like pushing you into panic mode?
Not really. I have bought way too many Vita games over the years, so whenever I see like a sale on PSN, it's like, yep, got, or don't want. So it's there isn't much there. Although I did buy Swap Quest 2 today. Well, Swap Quest, sorry. I saw somebody recommend it and thought, all right, I'll give it a try. But yeah, there aren't many games left on the store that don't have that purchase symbol on them anymore for me.
There were like, there's one like weird thing I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, and obviously it's not even going to get fixed in time. I literally just re-upped like last month my PlayStation Plus subscription, and now all of those games, as soon as I stopped being a PlayStation Plus, because before I resubscribed, I hadn't been a member in like 3 years. Like, I'd gone a really long time because I didn't really need it for anything. I already have a bunch of games I don't need, like all that stuff given away. But now that the store's closing before my membership lapsed, I'm like, oh, well, I would like to buy stuff like I got through PlayStation Plus, but now I just can't. And so now I'll almost be like more inclined to be stuck with PlayStation Plus longer than I'd like to be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And hopefully the Vita will kind of continue to almost ping the server in terms of getting the refresh on your PS Plus expiry date.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so, you know, if your PS Plus is going to expire in December and the Vita kind of has that in system saying December is the end date, it needs to then be able to get an update from the network to say, you know, that's been extended by a year. So hopefully it'll do that. But, you know, who knows? I mean, luckily enough, I've got PS Plus. I bought loads of cheap memberships subscriptions when they were on offer. So I think I'm okay till about 22 or 23 even. So it should be okay for a while. But it is annoying that things like Binding of Isaac and Velocity 2X, I can't just buy them and own them.
I had a moment of like, because you reminded me of Binding of Isaac, of thinking of like Nicalis and all like their games. I'm like, God, I'm gonna eventually end up just buying a digital copy of 1001 Spikes. I want that physical so bad, but even with my terrible spending habits, I don't think I'd ever be able to justify any of like the whole punched copies. And so it's just one of those like dumb things of like, oh God, please don't make me have to do this. Just like, because like we're not gonna get into this because that's a even whole larger conversation. Like, when I made that big tweet thread on my personal account, kind of calling out the physical publishers of, like, Limited Run and East Asia Soft, like, I'm surprised how few people I heard kind of advocating the same thing as me, of, like, I'm now kind of in, not panic mode, but I'm in hold mode, because I'm like, I want to buy all these games digitally before it's too late, but I know there's a, like, giant pit of Vita games waiting in East Asia Soft's warehouse, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to, like, buy a game twice if I can help it, so I'm just going to keep holding it off until I know what they all are. So, like, I know they want to, like, keep it a surprise and stuff, but then, like, even the other hand of, like, things that aren't a surprise, like, let's say if you have been holding off for Super Meat Boy, and Super Meat Boy doesn't go on sale until October from limited run, and the store shut down. There's like 2,000 copies of that game. If you don't get it, then you're just never going to get it legally now.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's better to just grab it digitally, at least to have it and play it, than risk it, because that's going to be a bloodbath that day.
Yeah, I think, and it sucks that this is the case, unless it's East Asia Soft, if Limited Run or Nicalis is the last physically published game, I think everyone in the community is just going to hate them forever. Like, there's no way for them holding on to those games for that long will ever, like, look good. Like, no excuse will ever kind of, like, be like, oh, it was worth it. Like, even with Papers, Please, people were like, I cannot believe, like, how long it took Papers, Please to come out.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They should just release it now.
And it's just
let it go.
And it's just so funny because it's literally just a pissing contest. Nobody can, like, nobody at this point, unless you are also a fan of their other things, like, I love East Asia Soft. I don't buy their Switch stuff. I don't buy their PS4 stuff. I buy more Play Asia stuff now, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. I don't know a lot of people who buy Vita stuff physically who are still advocates of Limited Run. Most people I know who were Limited Run fans have all gotten burned at a certain point and were like, listen, I'm going to get what I want out of you, but I don't, like, hold you in as high of regard as I used to.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel.
Okay, so going a little bit more into the digital side of things, though, before we're too late. Marcus, for you, you'd brought up some of the, like, classics earlier. So for you, do you have all of the, like, old Atlus PS2 games you want? Or, like, because I don't know, like, in the West, stuff like Devil Summoner 1 and 2 is getting, like, crazy expensive here, but I don't know what the situation's been like for you all.
So I've seen the last conventions that I went to before COVID-19 hit the world, I've seen physical copies of both Devil Summoner games at reasonable prices. They weren't the special editions like with the Raiho plushie, but they were something like £30 or £40. Just that's the disc. Buy it if you want it at used game stands, and I'm like, hey, that's all right, that's fair. That's about what I paid for like things like DDS 1 and 2 and Nocturne. Actually, in fact, I paid less for the Nocturne original Japanese copy with its nice, sexy blue cover than I did for like Lucifer's Call, which I paid like £15.
Is there like any system you guys can think of where Japanese versions are more expensive? Because like I feel like, which is funny because like it's a smaller country, so you'd think that they would have less stuff produced overall. But like if you want to do any actual just buying Japanese video games, they're like dirt cheap by Western standards.
It's a tough one to say. But my knee-jerk response was going to be something like the SNES or Super Famicom. But like,
but that gets to the point of I'm speaking like when it's worldwide releases. Like, man, if you don't mind having like the Japanese or Asian version of Uncharted, like you can have that probably cheaper than buying a like copy from the UK.
I really don't know if there's one particular system that has that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about that before.
So for your so then for Marcus, for you, so you've got both DDS, both Devil Summoner, Nocturne, and whatever Persona games you want. Then I'm guessing all physically.
Well, I don't own both Devil Summoners, but I know that I could get them for a better price than the sort of scalpers on eBay for the States.
That's like been the tough part about video game collecting in quarantine over the world of like. Online prices have been rising, but that doesn't mean retail has. But not everyone can like go out there. Like not everyone like either feels safe enough to be like going around and doing different like, game shopping and stuff. Like for you guys,
you're not.
Like for you guys over there, like are used game shops like still open? Like are like I mean I guess because like I don't really know like how prevalent they really are over like on your guys' part of the world. Like how many like are like. Just solely video game shops that aren't just like old game shops, are they even really that prevalent of a thing?
Oh, they started to really go out of business at like in the mid 2010s. Like they slowly start to like fade out into the nothingness as I see like a different game pop up in some shopping centers and stuff. Like the last one I remember that I could always go to was near my uni, and that shut up late 2015, but not before I bought my copy of Bloodborne there.
The final purchase was Bloodborne. That's that's like the best when you like have those memories of a store closing. Like I have so many old PS2 games that I bought from like closing Blockbusters over here in the West before they closed. But yeah, for you guys, like the only thing I can really think of that would kind of still do old games is like something like a CEX or whatever. Because like Game probably doesn't even do like PS3 stuff anymore, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't stock anything. It was actually kind of a shock to see that they didn't stock like old DS at one point, where I'm like, oh wow, we're just moving straight onto 3DS and everything beyond that. But no, and like the weird thing about Computer Exchange is that it operates almost in like a similar vein to Game anyway, where it's like corporate, it has management. It's not like a local used game store where like the guy that runs it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a good deal. Kex just does not care. It's got just a lot of products that's used. It's basically just like used game.
So like Sandeep, like for you, do you ever like even before all this was kind of happening with lockdown, like did you ever like go to many like used game shops for like looking for stuff you were actively looking for, or was it pretty much always online?
No, so we've got a CEX about maybe 5-minute drive away from me, and so I used to always kind of pop in there, probably like once a week or so. Very, very infrequently would I buy anything. They always had the same games there every single week. The lots of copies of FIFA, that sort of thing. But so it's I always still go there. And, when the shops open up, I'm sure I'll be back there again as well.
The like one thing I will never understand that like you guys are all, at least the shops over there, are way more comfortable doing than I never see reprinted covers in the West. I never in America see game shops like reprint what would be the original cover on their own paper. Like you never see that here. Like they'll just do a crappy generic white piece of paper. Hey, here's what it is. It's just the disc. There you go. And like I feel like I would get like I would get worried of like getting collector catfished, because like whenever I've looked at eBay listings from like over there, I'm like, oh god, is it just like a crappy printed cover? Because like I don't want to just like order something and then have it like arrive in a month and then it's just like, oh yeah, he just like printed this on like memo paper.
Yeah, I've had it happen to me once buying at CEX, where I got kind of tricked for God of War: Ghost of Sparta on PSP. So I got that, and then realized when I got home, opened it, it's like, this isn't real. So that was very annoying.
So
still kept it, but it was annoying.
So Sandeep, for you, did you have much outside of like Vita stuff? Like, did you already have money like purchases or stuff on the digital ecosystem for PSP to a lesser extent, but PS3? I feel like I'm really surprised how few people are getting kind of like aware of the ongoing effects of PS3, because like the lineage on some of those PS3 games of like, obviously a lot of those games are physical, but even like so many digital titles outside of the classics, I think people are going to miss a lot more like when it's actually gone. Like obviously the classics that are cheaper to get digitally are really nice. Like that was one of my favorite moments when like they announced Nocturne Remastered was $50. I was like, I mean, it's still $10 digitally, so that was a good way to recommend it. But I guess not after this summer. So that'll I'm sure help like sales of Remastered. But like even for me, like I feel like I was downloading indie games and just digital only titles on PS3 like all the time, because that era, especially like I feel like once you like 2011 and beyond, like slim PS3 era, like Sony was really, really making an active effort to kind of combat it. Because like Marcus at the time, like when you being more into 360, do you remember Summer of Arcade, like how big of a deal all those games were every week?
Well, if you're talking about Xbox Arcade, I remember there used to be a really wide slew of stuff that was on there, like similar to the sort of thing Steam Greenlight had, where it's like it could range from a really well done thing that cost like a $5, and you'd support an indie developer that way, or just a terrible Flash game that someone cobbled together and just charging £10.
I will
This is
always
terrible.
remember. I made a game with zombies in it, and it's only $1. That's like the quintessential, really good and really cheap 360
that,
indie
yeah.
game.
99
good?
cents.
Yeah, it was great. It was literally a twin stick shooter of like you killing zombies in an endless horde in different patterns, while this guy made a song with the game's title and he sings it. It's very simple but very, very fun.
It does what it says on the tin, and that's fine.
Nice.
But yeah, like, so PS3 did a really big job of like combating that. Of like they went out of their way to get like either exclusives or like really, really big stuff. And even if it wasn't exclusive, just like stuff that like they wanted to like kind of like suck you in with. Like I remember playing stuff like Super Stardust HD, like literally Super Stardust HD, a digital only game on PS3. That was the first game ever with trophies. I remember staying up past midnight when they updated the game and patched it to have trophies. I like had been envious of Xbox's achievements for years. Like, literally, that was like the one thing I was like, God, I had a Wii and I had a PS3, but we didn't have achievements. And I had only had a PS3 in 2008, so I only had to wait like 3 months for trophies, because they got patched in 2 years after the system. And like, that was a big deal at the time. Like, whether it be physical game, like literally the first game with trophies was Super Stardust HD, a digital only game, and the second game like 2 months later, because they had to just patch them in, because new games were like, I don't know, like new games for like the rest of 2008 could have trophies, but they didn't have to. It wasn't mandated until 2009. So like the first retail game was Uncharted. Uncharted had already been out for like over a year at that point, and Naughty Dog just like, okay, I guess we'll patch in some trophies. And it was always so funny of like, there was an era of like PS3 Sony of wanting older games to get trophies. Like I remember one that never got it, that people still never forgave, was Resistance 1, and that was a launch game. I remember the entire existence of the PS3. People wanted Resistance 1 with trophies. It was just like something like you couldn't like get rid of. A really big one, I don't know if like Marcus or Sandeep, if you guys had this, the day Metal Gear Solid 4 got trophies, I thought it was like a new game. You might as well have just called it Metal Gear Solid 4 Remastered. Like, that having trophies, I thought was the coolest fucking thing.
Yeah, it's funny to think about it, because I think of Metal Gear Solid 4, and it's honestly so close to like the start of PS3's life cycle that I'm like, I can't imagine it without trophies, because it's such a long experience to have without.
In the classic Thanos snap, do you guys remember what we lost to get trophies?
Oh,
the online?
Yeah, Metal Gear Online died so MGS4 could get trophies.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Metal Gear Online.
Do you remember? Okay, Sandy, then you can relate to this. Do you remember how you had to have your own sign-in to play it and buy its DLC? You had to buy it through an in-game browser and give Konami your credit card. I remember explaining this to my parents at the time, because in 2008, I would have been... Oh my god. I would have been in 8th grade, so I would have been something like... Let's see, like 15, 16, like explaining to my mom, okay, so this Japanese company needs you to put your credit card into my PlayStation so that I can download something for a different game. And it's like, no. Like that's why I remember vouchers were a really big thing at the time, especially because when I didn't have credit card or whatever, like in that era of just like, like when you don't have like a credit card, you just kind of gotta do that to really make do with it. Sandy, before you go, because I know we're rambling about everything and anything here, real quick, let everybody know where they can find you, channel, all that fun stuff like Twitter. But if you have any PSP, PS3, or Vita recommendations, please drop them now.
Oof, put me on the spot. You know, I think on PS, since we've been talking about Metal Gear so much, Metal Gear Collection on Vita and Peace Walker on PSP are just awesome. I'm sure a lot of your fans have already played them, but they're just brilliant. Peace Walker really does hold up.
I was
awesome.
waiting for you, like when I gave you recommendations, I would have like actually spit out my water laughing if you went, oh, Persona 4 Golden. It's a good one. You got to get that one, guys.
It's a missed opportunity. I should have said it. No, there's so many games on the Vita. I'm sure you've recommended loads of them. And I think it's just brilliant for indie games as well. It's the PS3 ended the PS3 life, and coming into the Vita, that Sony were just awesome when it came to promoting indie games and getting all the best ones on there. So I think Vita is just a great place for indie gaming. There's so many games to check out.
But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. Sorry we couldn't have you on for longer with that, but if people want to get more of you and your channel and everything, where is the easiest way for them to find all your info?
Apparently, if you type in "too old for gaming" in Google,
yeah, one word. Got to make sure the numbers are actually numbers, and you'll find all of his stuff there. But, oh no, actually, we should plug this before you go to bed. Where are you at currently with the instruction manual plan?
Oh, so I started making these instruction manuals for Vita games. So it's going to be Uncharted, Gravity Rush, Danganronpa, Muramasa, and Persona 4 Golden. All of them are done except for Persona 4 Golden, which I was just writing before this call started. So I reckon that'll be done by early next week, and then I'm gonna just get them all printed. But they're coming along really well.
Awesome. I'm like, the one thing I will never not be nostalgic for is just opening up a game and just getting anything, just getting any level of instruction manual. Like, I think it's actually more sad when, like, do you guys ever like open up a PS4 disc and it's the insert, where it's not like just a piece of paper, it's a folded up piece of paper that just has nothing but like security text. Like, that's the really heartbreaking stuff.
Makes me sad.
Yeah. I miss those instruction manuals.
Oh my god! Like,
hence this little project.
Especially like Atlus games, because like for them, like obviously everybody did really thick ones, but like I feel like it definitely kind of stopped with the PS3 era. But Atlus was doing, like, whether it be something like Persona 4 Arena or Demon Souls, like those were really thick manuals and they were really nice. They didn't just feel like they were instructions, like they felt like they were actually like a good piece of, like, something you'd want to read through.
Yeah, I was looking at the Persona 4 manual for PS2 as kind of a reference as I'm writing this one, and it had like the full chart of all the personas and like their mythology behind them, and it was like, oh wow, that's quite impressive that all this stuff went into it.
And now you open up your brand new copy of Persona 5 Strikers, and there is no inside art, no manual, no nothing. just a big middle finger, and says, "See you next time, sucker."
Yep, exactly.
Well, on that depressing note, Sandeep, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry we couldn't have you for longer. I'm gonna, I'm sure, go on so many more tirades with Marcus over the next God knows how long while I eventually finish my Chipotle burrito. At one point it'll be done. Or I'll just like crumble and like die in a sad pool of loneliness. But thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure I'll find some excuse to like drag you on here and probably talk about manuals, Metal Gear Solid, and giving your credit card at way too young of an age to your PS3.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Spence. Good to talk to you, Marcus.
Nice to meet you, mate. Have a nice evening.
Bye. I want you to know, Marcus, I was very disappointed that your trend of saying which part of London you were by did not then translate to Sandeep. I was like, okay, my hope is he was going to say it, and then you are dangerously close to where he lives. He was like, oh, I better not say that too. Then it's gonna get too real afterwards.
There's always a chance of that, considering like we're like a smaller nation compared to like an entire state of California or something.
I feel like with that even said though, like, London is just massive. Like, imagine if you were just told, oh, I've got to find someone, he's around the Upper East Side of London. Would you have any idea where to begin?
Upper East Side? So that's going to be, like...
Exactly. My point exactly.
They're saying Upper East Side. Do they mean Northeast London? I don't... They got to be more specific than that.
Yeah, exactly. You're never gonna find anybody there. That's why everyone has to be GPS tagged. So like halfway through the PS3 conversation, I'm actually next to my PS3. I booted it up and I'm gonna pop on the store now just for like shits and giggles for like any recommendations to drop. But like man, the PS3 stuff is just so weird for like the weird itch it is, because it's like literally. The PS3 is somehow, like, one of the best machines for like backwards compatibility, because like depending on what you have, whether it be hardware or software, it can play pretty much anything PS1, some PS2, and obviously all PS3 stuff. And like having like those libraries there is just like so great of all the things you have at your disposal. But I'm like, I want to pull up the like just digital only games and just kind of see like what comes up. Although I'm sure if I asked you, you would depressingly know the answer. Would you like to guess what is the top selling digital only game on PS3 right now?
Is it Nocturne then?
No,
Do I go for the
no
obvious one?
way. Of course not. It's Minecraft, followed by
Oh, wow.
followed by Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2.
I thought you were about to say Sonic 06. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
No. I will say, very depressing news. No joke, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is selling better than Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater right now. I feel like whoever did that should...
We live in a society, Spencer. We truly do.
The most sad of societies, yeah. Oh man, yeah, like think of like other stuff though. Like there's like the Payday games got their start there. All of those like Telltale games, how big they were. So many like old like classic games too that like nobody ever really talks about, because like I feel like so many games got ported to like 360 and PS3 in that era that no one talks about. Like, do you remember Xbox Live Arcade? No, sorry, it wasn't Xbox Live Arcade. It was like a arcade in Xbox Live. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was like this was in the era of like avatars, and you could like buy games and like hang out in there.
Yeah, I am picturing what you're referencing. It's like there was certain ones where you could actually use your Xbox avatar to play in those games.
Oh my god, yeah, and not even just stuff like Uno or whatever. Like I remember, oh yeah, like that weird era of like Microsoft being like, you can do anything you want with these weird avatars. So I have my first recommendation that is digital only that I'm surprised I didn't think of sooner. Did you ever play Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon?
Yes, I love that one.
Is an amazing game. It is so stupidly cheap.
Arguably better of a purchase than the original Far Cry 3.
And definitely better than Far Cry 4.
Amazing soundtrack by Power Glove. Yeah, I love that game.
So this is a weird one of, I don't know if this holds like any nostalgia for you. Or like even if you don't remember it, do not feel bad. Do you remember Pain? Pain was literally like, it came bundled in with my Metal Gear Solid 4 bundle, and I got it for free that way. And it was just one of those like games of like, I couldn't tell if I hated Pain or if I loved Pain. It was just one of those weird like, it was in that era of, hey, this game has physics, so I guess that's the whole shtick. It's just got physics.
Is it Pain spelt in the same way like Max Payne, or is it
No, Papain. Like, it is just a giant slingshot. You fling people around the city, and then they either live or die based on that.
So it's like Kitten Catapult from Newgrounds.
Yes, basically, but with way too high of a budget. And, God, way too much DLC. Another one that's actually out, again, it was delisted for a while, but is really, really good. Double Dragon Neon, I cannot recommend enough. It is just a Double Dragon game made by WayForward, and is really, really, really good. Although I just scrolled down, and I'm so glad that this is here so that I can recommend it. Goosebumps the game has sold more than this, and this really, really depresses me. Goosebumps the game is not what I'm going to recommend, though. Marcus, do you know what Hardcore Uprising is?
No, it sounds incredibly vague and...
It is a terrible name for an amazing game. So, Hardcore Uprising is a remake of Contra Hardcore, and that was a Genesis game. So, Contra Hardcore was remade by Arc System Works to Hardcore Uprising. So imagine like the visual style of like a Guilty Gear or a BlazBlue and stuff like that, and then put it with a Contra-like. And it is amazing. Like, criminally ever under talked about. And it was just like so much fun. But like, for whatever reason, Konami just did this really weird boneheaded decision of, okay, let's do... It was like, okay, let's do this. We're going to make a remake to one of the most popular Contra games that's not on Nintendo, but let's not call it Contra.
Yeah, bit of a missed opportunity when you rebrand and simultaneously take away the identity of the game that you're trying to port over.
Oh my gosh, NP in the chat brings up a great point. Okay, I don't know how I didn't say this, so I just want to publicly apologize to the whole world. I've not said fucking Tokyo Jungle yet. If you don't have Tokyo Jungle bought and downloaded immediately, you're doing something wrong with your PS3. So Marcus, do you have any idea what Tokyo Jungle was? Because it's possibly the most niche downloadable game, but it was made by Sony, and it fucks really hard. It's like a really good game.
No, enlighten me.
Okay, so Tokyo Jungle is literally post-apocalyptic, like think literally Last of Us like timeline and stuff, but it is in Tokyo, no humans exist, and you are a random number of animals. Like, so you can be, like, let's say you start off as a Pomeranian. Your job is to explore this post-apocalyptic society and just continue living as long as possible. You have to find food, find water, find a mate, make children, stuff like that. Like, everything it would take to keep your lineage going. That is the point. It's kind of like a roguelike in that way as well. And then, the crazier part along with it all, what's so weird is it's not just like random animals. Like you can be something like a hippo, you can be a coyote, you can be a horse, you can be a Neanderthal. Not a man, a Neanderthal. You could be like a woolly mammoth, you could be a zebra. It was just so crazy. And it was like a first party Japanese, not Japanese, it was a first party Japan studio game, like by the guys who did stuff like Eco and like Ape Escape. Like that studio was just fucking on another level.
Yeah, making out there games before out there really existed in mainstream games.
Yeah, so like I wouldn't recommend as an everybody game, but if you're into weird games that still hold up, for sure, Tokyo Jungle is definitely one I recommend people check out and then see if you want to pick up. It's really, really good. Like, it does not deserve to be as good as it is. The other one that I'm surprised took me this long to talk about, and this does kind of count, and I only say kind of because it's not really a game, it's not like it's going to be rare, but this is kind of important. Marcus, if you have a PlayStation 3 and you want to play all of the best zombie maps on Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2, that will not be available to you if you don't buy them now.
That's a sad thought, because like
imagine living in a world where, oh god, whatever the George Romero level was, like that's just gone from history.
Call of the Dead?
Yes, like imagine if that's just gone. Like you just can't buy that anymore. Like nope, too bad, it's gone.
That's like the standout one that I think of as DLC from Black Ops 1, because you've got like Danny Trejo, Robert Englund, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Michael Rooker as well.
Michael Rooker as himself. Yeah, like
he was.
All of those DLCs will just be gone, and like, yeah, even if like, I mean, obviously all those multiplayer servers are up, even if the store closes, but yeah, so many little weird ones. I'm so happy someone in the chat brings us up. JTrev492 brought up The Last Guy. The Last Guy is awesome. You are like super zoomed out. Like imagine Google Maps is looking down at like satellite view, and there's a zombie apocalypse going on, and you're just like picking up people like they're Pikmin by the thousands. So you're trying to get as many people as possible to these safe zones without zombies noticing or touching you through like kind of photorealistic worlds, and it was really trippy. I remember that game like as like weirdly popular at the time, and probably not in terms of sales, but more in terms of like word of mouth. And the funny thing about The Last Guy that I'll always remember was it was made by this studio in India, which like by 2009 like standards, like there's not a lot of game devs now in India, like especially so back then. So it was just kind of cool that sort of existed.
Who ever heard of a game dev in India? Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, because like India is like one of the most heavily populated countries in the entire world, and
all I can think of are of India as of late is like TikTok and Bollywood at the moment. That'd be it. T-series.
That might be like the most unintentionally hilarious and offensive thing you've ever said, but I love it. Speaking of things that are DLC but definitely not going to be missed, I love how Persona 5 is going to lose all of its DLC on PS3 and literally no one will be sad.
Yeah, because it still exists on PS4.
Well, not even that! Like, literally, you could wipe all the DLC in Persona 5. I wouldn't care. Like, yeah, it's sad that I can't buy Flynn's costume from SMT4, but also at the same point, I probably shouldn't have paid... Oh god, how much was this? Do you even remember how much, like, the DLC costumes were?
Oh yeah, they always ask too much. It's the thing that people make jokes about with Atlus DLC, because, like, that's all it really exists as.
$7. $7 for the costume packs.
A silly little tack on that, like, means nothing and you don't need.
One of these days, I'm going to find someone, and now that I'm saying this, someone will come out of the woodworks, but I promise you that there's someone out there, I've just never met them, who swears to God that the PS3 version is better than the PS4 version. I'm sure there's somebody out there.
I mean... there's like an argument to be had that like it's a game that had trouble development in the midst of the PS3's life cycle and that eventually was released for both systems, but like beyond that I don't think there's any real argument that holds water.
I think if we get like another couple of like years on from this, I bet you people would forget that it was a PS3 game.
Might well do, yeah.
Quick shout out. This is a Vita digital only shout out, but just because I know there's no physical version in English. A little reminder, Caligula Effect. If you enjoyed the music and the writing of Persona 1 and 2 that is made by those people, the Vita version is digital only, and it is different than the PS4 and Switch and PC version. So it's $30, still pretty pricey. Something we haven't really talked about. It's kind of like looming over this in a shitty way. Right now, from a developer side, PlayStation does not give developers access to put sales on PlayStation Vita, 3, or portable games. So, if you are someone who made Dino Denny's Kickoff Revival and you want to put it on sale before it's gone, you can't do it right now. Hopefully Sony kind of changes their mind, but it's just it's like really, really kind of boggling that like they just took away the ability to put games on sale, when it just kind of goes back to that thing of like, you think that like at the very least this would make you more money, because like
they basically fire sale it because they're stopping the support for the stores. Yeah,
because like people are already in that mindset of like, oh god, I better buy this before it's too late. But then think of like, if it's all like dirt cheap, how much more stuff we'll probably buy even if we don't need it. Especially, man, for some of those classics, like, God, talking about Konami, they released Suikoden IV in February of 2017. That was 3 years after the PS4 had released, and this is only available on PS3. This isn't a PS2 classic on PS4, this is a PS2 classic on PS3. It's insane.
It's just one of those where you think, like, who was this marketed at, and who the hell is actually going to buy this?
I think actually in that era, that was probably more of a thing of, oh, we've had this ready forever, and someone was just sitting on it. Because, like, obviously, like, it's not going to sell very well, if at all. But it was one of those ones of, like, hey, like, literally putting a PS2 game on PS3 took no work. All of those games took no work. Obviously, the emulation quality is going to kind of, like, your mileage may vary. But the whole thing about it is just, like, it was so easy because there was nothing being added. There was no trophies, no HD support, no real changes to the game, which made it a lot easier for people if they had the rights. Like, look at Grandia 2. Grandia 2, I don't even know who to publish it. I guess, yeah, just, like, Sony just got the rights for Grandia 2, put it up there in July of 2016, and was like, okay, if someone wants this, it's $10. And it's like, even at that time, it was like, it was an easy sell for those games, because even like for someone like me, I'm probably going to pick up the PS2 games from Atlus, even though I have them and I've played them all. It's like, what do I have to lose by just having a more convenient copy? Because, like, say what you will about booting up a PS3, I know most people listening to this probably will never even touch their PS3 again. I would rather dig up my PS3 and play it than my PS2, you know?
That's fair enough. For me, actually, the one lingering thought in my head is, oh, if I get a really cheap, like, PS3 that, you know, won't yellow light on me or anything, I'll just buy that, and the only things I'm probably going to play on it is stuff like original Demon Souls, for that original experience, and Metal Gear Solid 4.
Oh, man. Great. Also, we haven't even talked about it. We've talked about Metal Gear Solid 4. We haven't even talked about the elephant in the room. That is only on PlayStation 4, dude. There's no other version of Metal Gear Solid 4.
Wait, say again?
There is no other version of Metal Gear Solid 4. Just on PS3.
No. Yeah, it is only PS3.
Like, how crazy is that after all of these years? It's been 13 years almost. Still only on one spot.
You think about ports like Twin Snakes and Substance and all that, and like Metal Gear Solid 4, PS3 only. Can't change it.
So, like, I'm even looking at other stuff. What was one I saw? Like, here's a great one of something that is insanely expensive. Tomba 1 and 2. Tomba 1 and 2 are $6. Tomba 2, right now, I'm going to look this up and I'm going to have a fucking heart attack. Tomba 2, I'm just going to type it on eBay. How much do you think this costs?
So a physical version of Tomba PS1.
Tomba 2...
$200.
Disc only, ranging from 75 to 100, just for disc only.
Ooh.
Oh my god, yeah, 150 for used, rough condition.
Ooh. I mean, it's just one of those things, because like being the PlayStation 1, and you know those physical copies are never going to be, you know, reproduced or anything. Those copies are all that are out there, and that's why like obscure titles will run you that sort of money, because they're just not produced anymore. They're like over, in some cases, 2 decades out of production.
Mass Effect Trilogy, which I think would be more of a negative if we weren't literally about to get like the remastered collection in like a month or two, but that is kind of one of those funny things of like, oh yeah, like all those games that just kind of never really made the jump until now. My favorite was, I don't know if you ever had this up much. How did you feel when the PS4 was out and a game would come out on everything but the PS4? So like, remember like in like 2014, 2015, you would be getting games that were like on PS3 but not PS4, just literally because like, and you could just tell it's like, oh, you just cheaped out. That's the only reason it's not on here.
Yeah, probably. There's not a whole lot in the range that like that specific point in time where like next generation had just hit shelves.
I remember the big one for me was Ultimax. Ultimax came out in 2014, and I could not believe that it didn't, like, that it wasn't going to come out to other systems. It like blew my mind.
You know what? Yeah. With retrospect, yeah, that does make sense. And like, because I couldn't get myself an immediate copy on 360, I bought that for like £50 off the Xbox store. Ultimax, and some of its DLC.
I mean, hey, it still runs and it works great.
I mean, I still have it on my 360, so I still own it. So,
So also, this is like a weird thing I'm noticing as I'm like going through the store right now. Like half of the items I'm going on, the buy button is not showing up.
Oh,
like
dear.
It's there to buy. I just can't press a button that says buy it. and it's a little concerning. Okay, we've now officially reached Ultimax on the PlayStation Store here, so, like, yeah, there are tons of things. I could be recommending games, like, all day. Like, there are so many games, digital only, physical only, classics, like, things to check out. My word of advice to anyone listening to this, if there is a game you are even remotely interested in, like, just even a little bit, do the research, see what the cost is, and just pick it up before it's too late. Because it's better to have picked it up while it is still available to buy than to get screwed over down the line, you know?
Yeah, because this isn't a case of, like, fear of missing out. This is the shop is being put under. They are axing it all. Download it now, or you will not be able to.
Listen, I just want to buy Rugby 15. Don't judge me for wanting to buy Rugby 15. It's gonna get delisted one day, guys. Oh man, speaking of Ultimax, all that Ultimax DLC, that's actually useful DLC. You won't be able to play as Akechi. You won't be able to play... Sorry, not Akechi. Adachi. I've now done that in reverse order. No Adachi, no Marie, no Margaret. I don't think there's anybody else, but... Yeah, all those DLCs will be gone. All, like, the classics, but, like... I was gonna give a shout-out to Resident Evil, but then at the same time, I'm like... Honestly, Capcom is actually really good. Like, basically everything you would want to play Resident Evil is on, like, PS4 and stuff. Or PC or Xbox.
Yeah, you can play, like, Resident Evil 4 or the original Resident Evil on just about...
Oh, no, there is one. Do you remember the light gun shooter? Like the arcade light gun, the Umbrella Chronicles?
Oh, boy, yeah.
Those are only on PS3 and Wii. Please check those out. Those games are crazy. Those are like games I have to remind myself exist, like, and not in a bad way, just like you remember, like, it's kind of the opposite of what we were talking about. Like, do you remember when you would get to the point where games were coming out still on PS3 and you were like, are you sure Alien Isolation and Evil Within can run on this thing? Oh my gosh. Yeah, there were too many things, like, to list. It's just like, if you've got the system, go through them, go to that store, make a list, see how much you can kind of start, like, rationing out money-wise. Like, the list of things to recommend is going to be way higher than the list of things, like, I would say avoid. I think if you're looking at something like random indie game whatever, like Metrico or The Swapper or Invisimals or any number of the Lego games or WRC 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like, you're gonna know whether that's, like, something that's, like, up your alley or not. But check out the stores. Also, do not forget DLC. DLC is a big one. DLC is going to be one that I think people are going to be hit by really hard and not in a good way. I think I officially have to stop now because I got to the last Atlus PS2 game they put up on here. The last Atlus PS2 classic they did was on June 10th, 2014, Digital Devil Saga 2. Which, man, what a great fucking game. Alright, let's turn off the PS3 and start talking about some real, current, new games, Marcus. So,
Shin, Megamis, and Tenseis.
Yes. You know? Let's talk about Nocturne Remastered. Marcus, this is your first time on the show. What are your thoughts on Nocturne Remastered?
That's quite an open-ended question to, like...
I need you to talk. I have talked a lot, and this burrito is just looking very sad and room temperature right now.
Okay, feel free to mute your mic intermittently while you chew.
No, it's getting... I'm going to eat the mic while I'm eating the burrito.
just like you would do on PS4 chat. I think it's, like, a really good lead title with what Atlus put out initially as a survey to the community, just like, hey, of all these games in our library over the years, which would you like remastered for us to release? And, like, it's quite an overwhelming majority flock to Nocturne for, like, good reasons, because, like, of course it's a cult classic. We've spoken before about just, like, how well it holds up as something that came out in 2003 visually. A lot of its vision and identity really shines through from concept art and Kaneko's vision, and just like being the first foray into 3D properly for a Megaten game was just fantastic. Like, they knock it out of the park. It has some compromises from being a title from that era. So stuff like the compressed soundtrack, which is a shame because like Meguro's licks for that entire game are just like top notch. One of the greatest soundtracks ever to grace a video game.
Did you check out that concert, by the way? The one they had recently for Nocturne?
No, I didn't. I should put my ears to that, because
there are many recordings of it on YouTube if you want to check it out. It was pretty good. It was I think a lot of people walked away from it a little disappointed in terms of music because it was very heavily all SMT3, but that was literally, the concert pretty much existed as a reason to as pretty much just a giant reason to sell the remaster.
Yeah, it's like a hype show to big up the remaster, effectively. No, before that, I'd listened to like the Chaos concert, and that was really good as well. So I assume this one will just be everything I'd expect from doing justice to the soundtrack live, as is recorded in game.
Mm-hmm.
God, what else can I say?
Are you excited, nervous? Where are you at with the voice acting? I feel like not a lot of people have actually been talking about that. This is getting an English dub is a big deal.
I think a lot of the voice work sounds promising from the initial trailers that they put out, and we'll have to wait and see from listening to stuff from like the opening credits, like as soon as the conception hits and Hitsushira is made into the Demi-Fiend, all of that, all the way up.
Is there anyone you're nervous to hear?
I wonder how Lucifer's voiced, because you have to consider that there's little boy Lucifer, old man Lucifer, and then Big Daddy, true demon,
big boy Lucifer,
turquoise angry man Lucifer at the end of the game.
And then they just do like the Cell from Dragon Ball Z and video game treatment, where they're like, "Oh, he is 3 different voice actors," and they're like, "No, fuck that. He's got 1. He's gonna sound the same every time." The one I'm surprised you didn't mention. I'm very interested to see how they handle Dante.
Well, yeah, because we mentioned that like his implied. Just
99%, it's probably Ruben. But the funny thing is about it, I will say I'm a little sad, but it makes sense. Raito's in the game, but Raito has like no voice acting. So like it would have like, I can only imagine how cursed it would be if they had to try and like do a voice for Raito.
I mean, he isn't mute in the Devil Summoner game.
No,
so.
But like, oh my god, dude, I don't even like remember. I want to look this up. Who his voice actor is. I really don't remember. It's really funny. It was Matthew Mercer in Soul Hackers. Because remember, he was in Soul Hackers as a...
Yes, he's in the additional chapters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me see. Voice actor PS2? Like, who would have made his grunts? Unfortunately, not a ton of great like detailing on who it would have been. Yeah, so possible they get him in, because obviously Matthew Mercer still does a ton of stuff with Atlus, but oh man, but then who's gonna do the cat? Because the cat does all the talking in Nocturne for Raito.
Oh yeah, go to.
Let me check who his voice actor is, if we can check. Just have it be Morgana so that everyone hates him.
Oh god, please no.
Do you remember Oh my god, I shouldn't have even said that. As soon as I said that, I now hate myself for putting that thought into the reality. Because then what if it's true? Because just think someone in Atlas West is just sitting back there, hey, you know what, guys? This game's got a black cat. Let's get Cassandra in here and have her be Morgana as Gauto.
Oh, that's like the worst thing that they could put towards this remaster.
Don't. Please don't. Patrick Seitz. I totally forgot. It's Patrick Seitz. What else
That
is
name rings a
Patrick?
bell.
Patrick Seitz, I know, does a bajillion video games and anime, but I'm trying to think of what you would know him from specifically. He does a lot of work in JoJo. I know that. He's a big, happy guy. Got a lot of long hair, big old beard. Patrick is known for such work as... Let's just go through in no particular order and see what stands out to me. He has done work in Tales of Phantasia, Erotica 7. He was Kenpachi in Bleach, Ishin also in Bleach. He is also a character called Raido in Naruto, who I have no idea who that is. He is Frankie in One Piece. He is... What are other things people would know? Sloth in Full Metal Alchemist. He is Simon in Durarara. Oh my lord. Here, let's go to current stuff. Has actually not done that many video games? No, just kidding, I lied. He does a fucking million video games. He is Ragna in BlazBlue. He is Deathstroke in Mortal Kombat vs. DC. He is Bob in Tekken. He is Samson in Skullgirls. He is Lazarus in Diablo 3. He is Mondo Zappa in Killer is Dead. He is a bajillion people. He is a ton of people. He's Jiren in Dragon Ball FighterZ. So yeah, just a dude who does a bunch of everybody. And hey, shout out to him for being the voice director in Lost Dimensions, a PS3 and Vita Atlus game that literally everybody forgot exists.
He's been around the block, safe
He
to
has.
say.
Good lord, why did I open this up? He has done a fuck ton of stuff. Okay, so yes, they'll probably just get Patrick back in for that, but that's really funny. I don't know why. I just, in my brain, I don't even remember the dialogue from Devil Summoner. It's just been so long. I don't really remember a lot of people's voices. Well,
No,
also,
yeah.
and also because with those games, there's outside of the cutscenes, almost none of it's really voiced. You know.
No, there's going to be a few grunts from main characters, but apart from that, no.
NP brings up an interesting chance. What is your thoughts? What are our chances of Troy Baker showing up in Nocturne? I'm guessing no. I think it's too low budget for Troy Baker.
I don't think it's in his sort of sphere really. That's the sort of thing Matt Mercer comes into, because Mr. Baker I associate with more AAA titles and stuff wasn't he Booker DeWitt in BioShock Infinite? You know,
That's one of the BioShock Infinite is one of those rare games where I think Troy Baker being Troy Baker is good, because he straddles the line, and also the fact of who he is and the twist at the end. I'm okay, that was a good job. It's how I'll never say what you will about Last of Us. I don't think anyone who ever has played The Last of Us goes away from it saying Troy is a bad Joel. Troy kills it as Joel.
I just think of Troy as Joel. Just I can't really pry them apart at this point.
Well, it's funny. I know what you mean when you say it, but the funny thing is, they could not look more different. Troy Baker is literally the definition of fucking LA voice actor hipster type dude, whereas Joel is such a man's man, but he does that character so well.
Yeah. Which is just testament to how good voice work can carry and suggest character. No, but yeah, point still stands, because his line of work is more within those bigger games, whereas dubs of games like Nocturne and other Atlus titles and other JRPGs and stuff around that, is more what's in Matt Mercer's like catalogue for work. Much in the way he's talked about how many like anime voiceover jobs he's had before. It just fits.
I think that's like one of my favorite things about Yuri Lowenthal is that he's been around forever and has done roles either equally as big, if not bigger sometimes, as like people like Nolan North or Troy Baker. But
yeah,
Yuri Lowenthal will do fucking anything. Like, he can go from being the protagonist of Persona 3 to fucking Spider-Man in an afternoon. Like, it's insane to me.
And then Ben 10, yeah.
He's never not Ben 10. Speaking of number one Ben 10 fans, Shiny Mew in the YouTube chat says hello to Marcus. So, hello, Marcus.
Oh, hello back to Shiny Mew.
You're supposed to do your best Obi-Wan Kenobi impression.
Hello there.
Thank you. It's why you're here. Also, so we can talk about your thoughts on Star Wars: The Clone Wars: The Bad Batch premiering May the 4th. Did you hear that first episode is 70 minutes long?
Quite a watch.
I just love it. Like, went from a show of like, I literally was just telling you like last week. I was like, hey, there's nothing out for Star Wars. Like, there's nothing go. No, just kidding. There's a lot of Star Wars to catch up. By the way, very off topic. How's your Clone Wars watch through going? Are you all finally done now?
No.
There's a lot of show to get through there.
What I did to go off topic is that I skipped around because, you know, a lot of it is just like that Cartoon Network sort of thing where it's like episodic, but none of them really like, you know, fit into like.
You can say the F word here. You can say filler. We know what you mean.
Just like in the same vein, like because it's a Cartoon Network produced show originally, that like you've never like seen all of the episodes of Adventure Time unless you've reached adulthood and you're like, I'm gonna rewatch them all.
It's like you like going out of your way to watch those syndicated shows is painful. It's so painful, like when it's live TV. That's really funny. I haven't thought about that in a long time because I was that guy. Like, I hunted those all out. Be glad, by the way, you didn't watch Clone Wars when it was airing on TV. Because I don't know if you paid attention, but so on Disney Plus, there's 6 seasons or 7 seasons?
I believe there's 6, and then
okay. So the final season that was Disney Plus, the one before that, Cartoon Network paid to make them, and then canceled the show before it ever aired. So what happened was season 5 was called like the Lost Episodes, and then that went to Netflix. So like it's so funny to think like and how spaced out they were too. It's like the Clone Wars from beginning it to ending it was like literally kids probably graduated, like started school and then graduated in that time.
I definitely did, yeah. No, to put a answer to that question and move back to Nocturne and other stuff is that I've like dipped around after watching like the first 2 seasons, and I was like, yeah, this is Cartoon Network sort of stuff, but there is some good stuff intermittent, and some of these episodes I remember. But then skipped around to see stuff that happens on Mandalore, and then skipped right ahead to like, you know, what was it, season 5 or the one where they brought it back after Disney canned it, and then it was like, oh no, we kind of need that to keep Star Wars fans. And yeah, I've been going through that with like the Bad Batch being introduced and everything.
Have you met Bo-Katan yet?
Oh yes.
Did you have that moment? Because I'm guessing you saw her live action version first. Was it weird for you knowing that it was the same lady?
No, because I had already seen the episode like half of it when it was airing, so I was like going later into adolescence, and I was like, oh cool, they're expanding on the Mandalorians and all of that. But like seeing her in the Mandalorian, I was like, it's the same voice actor, isn't it? Or same actress, pardon me.
I think that's like the more impressive part is like what like I've always thought it was so cool of like I understand why like some actors change, whether it be voice reasons, physical reasons, but the fact that it's literally the same lady, like being like Bo-Katan, like from voice actor to actor, I thought was like just like a really cool touch. Um, and I feel like that's like one of those things of like you can just kind of like you get to a point like okay, you did this not because you had to, but because you knew it was like it was the right move. Like that's a good fan move. Like that's a move you could have not done and people would have understood, but you get a lot of fan credit for doing it. It's like whenever a Star Wars property, whether it be spin-off or whatever, anytime someone can bring Adam Driver back as Kylo Ren, you get bonus points because he is expensive.
I mean, I think he's worth every penny because, like, he's one of the sole reasons that, like, that Disney trilogy had any merit. Mm-hmm. He's just completely going for it. I
would have such a... This is probably the last dumb Star Wars thing I'll say, but I had this weird thought. If, like, Adam Driver ever got the free time or Disney Plus ever, like, wanted to get me excited about a Star Wars spinoff show, because, like, I'll watch them all, but, like, even something like The Bad Batch, I'm not, like... It's not like Falcon and Winter Soldier, where I'm like, I gotta watch The Bad Batch. It's not like it's that hard. If we ever got a Kylo Ren Disney Plus series of what happened between him leaving Luke's training and Episode 7, and that's just, like, his own show, I would eat that fucking up. I'd be like, just give me all Adam Driver.
That would be really good and actually lend some credence to the fact that the Disney sequel trilogy exists because, like, that's actually expanding on something that hadn't been tread on.
Yeah, think about this and try not to be depressed. The expanded trilogy, for the final trilogy from like all the Disney stuff, the only medium that is tied into it at all is literally Battlefront 2 story mode, which everyone hates. Like, because, yeah, Mandalorian takes place before Episode 7, but literally everything Mandalorian is all, like, nostalgia jizzing the first trilogy.
In a way, yeah, and it's got, like, a lot of continuity for stuff that's, like, prequel and original trilogy, yeah.
So, I think that'd be really cool, but, like, I could not imagine how much money that'd be. Although, you know what, I say that, they're literally doing that with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I think is probably a bigger and better get. So, like, I think depending on how that does, because, like, the two shows that they are working that I am excited about, I am very excited about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Good Jesus, please have no more production issues. I just want more Ewan McGregor, please. But the other part of it, though, was Cassian Andor getting his own show, I think is cool, just because I'm, like, a huge simp for Rogue One, and I actually really liked his character in Rogue One, so I'm like, oh, that'd be cool to get like more like into like the world of Rogue One before it all happened.
Yeah, Rogue One, unironically, is like the one good like Disney Star Wars film, just like standing on its own feet. Mainly because it can lean on like source material that already existed. And just to bridge a gap, but it's still really good nonetheless.
Alright, we've talked about Star Wars, we've talked about PlayStation, we've talked about Metal Gear Solid, we've kind of talked about Shin Megami Tensei. Before we start getting into the process of wrapping this up, everyone watching live, if you have any questions you want either Marcus and I to answer, I've now clearly shown you we will talk about fucking anything, so ask away.
We have complete chatterboxes online and in real life.
Literally, the only reason I'm winding this down is because I need to get groceries. I desperately need to go grocery shopping, and if we don't, I'm just... Like, you know, like, you get to that point of, like, yeah, I could buy food, but, like, it's probably better for my, like, financial and, like, actual physical health to, like, have food at home.
Very true.
While we wait for that, Marcus, where's the Doom playthrough at right now for you? Where's the Doom Eternal train leaving you?
So on Nightmare, I did the Super Gore Nest, so it's I did the Super Gore Nest, and then I did is it the Ark facility to go get Samuel Hayden, and you know the surprising thing with what's it? They're like, why am I forgetting the name of them now? But it's basically the enemy that summons a spirit dog. They're one of the I want to say praetor, but that's not the word. Executioner? No, it really is on the top of my tongue. But Marauder.
Oh yeah, isn't Marauder like the one that everyone hates in Doom Eternal because they're so fucking hard?
Funny thing about that, mainly it's because they have states where like they're impervious mostly to damage, which like is not a new thing to video games, but like considering everything else in Doom, you can just shoot enough and then like either rip and tear it or just it will explode. To be the only enemy that really does that aside from like actual bosses is kind of a brick wall to a lot of players. But upon replaying and knowing that that's going to happen, and they glow green when you can deal damage to them and catch them off guard and get them on the back foot. Replaying on Nightmare, he actually took a lot less of a beating than he did on Ultraviolence, the difficulty below. And I was like, wow, that fight was over more than... It was a briefer fight than it was hyped up to be from the level that I just did. And I was like, oh, whatever, there's more of him to fight in the following levels.
I swear to God, if when you beat this Nightmare run and you don't start playing the DLC, I will just have to shake you. I'm like, I cannot believe you've played so much of this and I'm like, no, I'll wait. I'll keep waiting.
No, that is the plan, because I'll immediately finish it and be like, okay, it's finally DLC time.
Okay, I have one Doom Eternal question for you before we get into like actual questions, because I was listening to a friend talk about Doom Eternal, and I still haven't played it myself yet, but we're kind of discussing it compared to 2016 and why Eternal doesn't get as much love. Would you say Doom Eternal had bad bosses? Not bad bosses, but like not memorable bosses? Because we were talking about like more people discuss stuff like the Marauders and the Slayer rings than the actual bosses in Doom Eternal.
I wouldn't say that they're bad per se. The boss of Final Sin, so like the game's final boss, is like incredibly video gamey, but then again, the entire Doom Eternal is.
There's a chainsaw. There is a shotgun with a grappling hook on it.
Yeah, the super shotgun.
That is the most Doom thing. Like you can be like, hey, we need to traverse. Well, he's not gonna have a gay grappling hook. We gotta put it on the gun.
It works quite well as well, to be honest.
The platforming in Doom Eternal, for everyone I talk to, you either love it or you hate it. I've never known anyone who's neutral on it. Like, you either think it's really, really good or really, really bad.
I think it's nice that there's platforming in a shooter, in a game that's so video gamey, that it's like, yeah, there's platforming. What of it? You kind of need it to progress, because it'll break up the monotony that, like, the gameplay loop of shooting and smashing and ripping and tearing will eventually get to.
You just gotta squint your eyes and pretend it's Celeste if you don't like it. So,
Super Mario.
I've got one meme question for you, and then I got one serious question. So, Demi Crow is the world's biggest Jack Bros advocate, apparently. He always is wanting a remake of Jack Bros. And NP in the chat says there's no way in hell a Jack Bros remake is ever happening. I'm in this camp of... Because Jack Bros is actually a good game. It's just horrifyingly expensive and on a terrible system. Like, I think if Atlus really wanted to, they could remake Jack Bros pretty easily, pretty cheap, make it like a downloadable twin-stick shooter, and it would be really, really popular.
No, yeah, considering that it's not like a fully 3D realized game like Nocturne or something, I think the tricky part is just understanding the hardware that it was produced for and then adapting that to like a modern platform just to port it. But like loads of games that we know have had that treatment, so I don't think it's out of the question for them to just say, the people want Jack Bros? Yeah, we'll give it to him.
Plus, like, at the very least, it'd be really funny to see the collector's market for Jack Bros just totally implode on itself. Like, go from this game that costs like
funny.
thousands of dollars to be like, oh no, they just remade it and it's better, so everyone just plays it here.
My money, no.
The other one I really want to know your thoughts on is Molten Sky Iron says, what do you think the chances are of SMT coming to Xbox? As someone who has more Xbox history than me, I'd be curious what you think of this. And by Xbox, in this situation, if it's Xbox, it's also PC. Because, like, let's be real, it's not going to come to one and not the other.
Well, if we want to get specific, the game that everybody forgets, SMT9 exists on the original Xbox, but it was a Japanese exclusive,
baby! Come on!
And then that was a big flop for reasons that people have already gone over.
I mean, I did just say it was exclusive on the Xbox.
Outside of the, like, exclusives, Ultimax and Arena both had 360 ports. So it's been done for Persona arguably before. But,
what would be like the one for you? Because like honestly, now that Nocturne's coming to PC with Remastered, I'm kind of like, you probably should have just put Nocturne also on Xbox. Like at this point, why not just have it released on everything?
Yeah, that's true, because like it's one console and then it's basically on every platform.
Man, if only Atlus like worked with like well, okay. My going theory is like Xbox will eventually get SMT games on there, and they will be on Game Pass. Like they know like how much of a win that would be for them, no matter what they get. I bet you Microsoft wants Nocturne on Game Pass, Xbox, and PC, but Atlus Japan knows that they'll make more money selling it first to consoles and then put it on Xbox with Game Pass later. Like, they're basically trying to get like the best of both worlds,
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because that's just like the safe way that Sony has done business with their recent releases, because like they'll make a lot of bank on the like pre-orders and stuff for a new release, like stuff we were just talking about, Doom Eternal, and something that's more in the vein of like an exclusive like The Last of Us 2. And then further down the line, once everyone that they know has already got a copy, for people that are just like, looking for something new off Game Pass, it will be on there just to like grab some attention and be like, oh, this is on there, why not give that a try? It's similar to how like games with PS Plus, like the Final Fantasy VII remake was just put on there just casually.
Like and what's so funny is like literally like that game was one of the biggest games of last year. Released 11 months later, just free for PlayStation Plus. Like blows my mind.
Yeah, they're not afraid to do it with some of their titles. Yeah.
No, I mean you get to a certain point, like when something is like stopped selling. Like there's a reason Ratchet and Clank and Horizon next month are going to be on their free to thing. It's like those games sold so many millions of copies. Like nobody out there is going out saying like, "Oh, dude, I got to pick up Horizon. I just can't afford it." Like if you want Horizon, you probably picked up Horizon. It's been dirt cheap. Which like, oh, by the way, quick reminder if anyone's listening to this live, please, if you have a PlayStation 4, download all the free Play at Home stuff. They are free to keep forever. I messed around with Ratchet and Clank PS4. The 60 frames per second patch went up live yesterday. Man, Insomniac makes really fucking good-looking games, and especially with that game now running in 60 and not 30, it is like a whole new game. And I wish I had the time to replay it again, but God knows I don't got time for Ratchet and Clank. I will say this: if they are crazy enough to go back to something like Ratchet and Clank and patch it for PS5 support, they've got to do it with Bloodborne. The only thing I can imagine is that there's a part of Sony in the back of their head that's like, but what if we just quote unquote remaster it and then just sell it to people on PS5? Like, yeah, they'd get a ton of goodwill if they just patched it, but they could also just like sell Bloodborne to us again for like $50-$60.
Yeah, I'd probably be cynical about that and say that, yeah, if it was ever going to happen, it's going to be repackaged and sold to us in a new disc for the PS5, but like, I don't know, maybe if they really wanted.
My only guess is because FromSoft has been so busy with Elden Ring that's the only reason like nothing's happened. It's just because they've been just too busy to consult, which is just so funny because it's like we're now at a point where Sekiro has been out longer than Elden Ring has been announced, which is kind of crazy.
And people used to think that Sekiro was Elden Ring when they watched like.
I remember when
teasers.
the very first Sekiro teaser at the Game Awards popped. I remember, like everyone else, we thought it was Bloodborne too. It was so funny.
Yeah, Vati video comes to mind, and he's like, "Oh, look, if you look closely, it is a bone arm, and it's got blood runes inscribed to it." And then, now considering Sekiro has been out for 2 years.
Oh my
turns
god!
Out it wasn't.
Killabo in chat. I should be mad at this idea, but if Bluepoint remastered like they did with Demon Souls, Bloodborne, I would not mind. Like, just make Bloodborne HD-er. I would be like, let's go. I don't care. I'll buy it. $70.
It'd probably look pretty good, all things considered.
Because people don't remember this. Bloodborne is old. Like, Bloodborne is over 5 years old. Like, it was a pretty early PS4 game. March of 2015.
It's turned 6, yeah.
Crazy.
And it's when you compare it to something that runs really smooth on PS4, it's like the last of its generation.
You just think, because every other From game can run at 60 now on PS5, you think, they know that, because it's Bloodborne is so popular. You think that they would just do it just to, make them all universal now. It's, so weird, their most popular game that is a Sony exclusive runs the worst on PS5.
Mm.
The other one, though, I did want to say, of, thinking about patches that I can't believe don't exist yet. Dude, why is Naughty Dog not patched The Last of Us for PS5? I love The Last of Us 2, but, The Last of Us 2, if it ran at 60, would be insane.
I've actually got this one for you, and it's going to be much the same way that they did with The Last of Us original from PS3 to PS4, is that they're just going to resell it.
I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised, because, they've been sitting on whatever the fuck Factions multiplayer is for 9 months now. So it's they've got to do something with multiplayer eventually. Repackaging it in a PS5 edition is the only thing that kind of makes sense to me.
I hope that Factions mode sincerely fucks.
That multiplayer mode better be the fucking Warzone of multiplayer games. With how much time they've put into that thing, I can, good luck, guys.
It better suck me off while I get my hair blow dried or something.
Marcus, I need your opinion on this before we get out of here. NP might have just dropped one of the takiest takes I've ever seen. The Order 1886 is better than either Last of Us game.
Ooh. I mean, we are comparing Sony titles that, want to be movies really bad, but,
As a Order 1886 fan, I gotta say that is audacious, to say the least. That's the nicest thing I could say to you, is that is very audacious.
That's pretty sacrilegious when we've just been talking about the Factions multiplayer mode. That shit kept The Last of Us original alive.
That's if I told you, I think Uncharted Golden Abyss is better than Citizen Kane. It's maybe to somebody, but what? It's a take. I will say this, just because Jack Frost did bring up Order 1886 first. I would love for them to finally finish that series. There's no way in hell the Order is ever getting finished, just because that developer is now owned by Facebook. So unless they get zucked in the near future, we are not getting us finished to that story.
Damn. Which is a shame, because it's a neat little
It was a cool world. They did some cool stuff in that world, but they made more of a movie than a game, unfortunately, and the sales showed.
It's a really nice Gears of War with a late 19th century veneer.
I don't know about you, when I finally picked up that game, I think I bought it in 2007, It was like $10 new with a steelbook. It was dirt cheap. I bought it like super clearanced.
Wait, 2007? You mean 2017?
Oh yeah, that too. Listen, my brain is not functioning.
I think I bought a copy around the same time, so yeah.
Well, speaking of games not enough people talk about, and PlayStation Plus kind of came up. Are you going to check out Days Gone? That's free next month.
Maybe?
Days Gone is a game that, like, I bet I would love. I've just not put the time into it. And, like, now that it's going to be free for everybody on PlayStation Plus, it was already in the PlayStation 5 PS Plus collection. But, like, it's one of those ones of, like, I'll be curious, like, see if more people can in there. Because the weird thing with Days Gone was Days Gone sold really well and kept selling well for, like, a year. But it reviewed really middlingly. Like, a lot of the critics were like, it's boring, it's blah, blah, blah. And there's a whole bunch of reasons behind, like, that, just with the reviews were weird. But yeah, the word of mouth on Days Gone with fans has always been like, oh yeah, it's really great. Just critics don't play it. It was really weird. So I'd say check it out if you want. If you have a PS5, though, it's your reminder, everybody, next week, PlayStation Plus is getting Oddworld Soulstorm exclusively for free. I don't think that's actually how that's phrased, but it's on Epic Games Store, PS4, and PS5. But on PS5, that version's free on Plus, not PS4 because Sony is weird. Now, Marcus, I've explained to you that it's free. It is a remake to the second Oddworld. Like, think of this basically as Oddworld 2. How much do you think the game costs if you are just buying it outright normally? Like, how much do you think this sequel to the original Oddworld would be?
Do you mean the remaster, or do you mean the original?
Well, so the reason I'm phrasing it weird is because Soulstorm started as a remake of 2, but it has now kind of become its own thing. Like, it's at its core, that's what it is, but it's bigger and more. Like, how much do you think that costs?
$30 to $40, maybe.
$50.
Okay.
So
they're really pushing that one.
They're really pushing it, and I don't give them crap for it. I honestly think that it's because, like, the important thing to remember about this, it's all self-funded by them. They don't have a publisher. It's all self-published. Obviously, they took deals with Sony and Epic, but, like, in terms of publishing it, they've been sinking the cost of this from 2014 when New and Tasty came out to now. So, like, they've been working on this, like, by themselves, small team, forever. So, like, God fucking bless them. I hope the game is great. $50 is a lot, but I can tell, like, it looks great. Like, it is one of the thing that's always funny about Soulstorm. It's made in Unity, but it's like the least Unity-looking game I've ever seen. Like, it looks gorgeous.
I mean, that's got to be worth something, considering that, like, Unity can make the most base assets into a game.
Let's do this. Let's do this comparison to end the show off, to kind of tie it back in. Both of these games are made in Unity. Both of these games are follow-ups to very popular PlayStation franchises. Both of them are $50. What do you think will be the better bang for your buck? Or let's not say better bang for your buck, because it's very subjectional. What do you think will be more universally praised or, like, reviewed? Nocturne Remastered or Soulstorm? They're both $50.
Ooh. I guess they're both niche, but, like, I'd probably say Nocturne is less niche than the Oddworld series.
God, you're right. That's depressing, but you're right. At one point, I bet Oddworld was, but yeah, now it's definitely more niche.
Nocturne, by virtue of just, like, its series and larger Atlus notoriety, just will have more more being said about it by more people. So probably, yeah, Nocturne.
I'm gonna give it to Oddworld, because I want them to do better, because it's like an actually, like, new game, and I just find it funny that both of those games are made in Unity. Nocturne and Unity didn't necessarily need it, but hey, it was cheap. because I'm going to give the bump to Oddworld because I think it's releasing in a better month. I think April's a lot slower than May. There's going to be a lot of competition in May. And I think people are going to look at it as a newer game, whereas people are going to look at Nocturne like a remaster. And if you're already in a busy month and you are a niche series and you are just a remaster, not anything substantially new, I think, assuming it reviews well, I think that there might be more general favor for something like Oddworld, as assuming it doesn't shit the bed. And the only reason I say that is just because I have no idea how people are going to review a game like that. Those games are far from mainstream. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious. I'm very excited to play it. I would already buy it for $50 even if I wasn't getting it for free, just because of how much I love that series. But yeah, it'll be interesting. That's an interesting comparison, just because of how many similarities those two releases have while being completely different at the same time. And NP, you've now redeemed yourself with your opinion on the order. Stranger's Wrath is great, no matter whether it be the original Xbox, Switch, or Vita. Stranger's Wrath is awesome. Marcus, I gotta get out of here. It's 1 in the morning for you?
It is indeed, yeah. It's probably why Sandeep dropped out so much earlier.
That man's got children. He's got kids to feed. He's got a job. All I've got is myself. I'm a child.
I do not have children. The only child I take care of is the inner child within me. So, it's not nearly as bad.
So, Marcus, obviously, I don't have a YouTube channel. I can just kind of throw all the masses at you. But if anyone there has made it through this 2-hour adventure and wants to find you online or any of your works, what would you like people to find about you online, and where can they find it?
Oh, damn. Shit. Because, I don't really hang them out on social media that much anymore.
Yeah, they shut down your Tumblr. It kind of limits you now.
I've never touched Tumblr.
I find that actually surprising. I could have seen you as either really into Tumblr or not at all.
No, I always hated Tumblr, to be honest.
I hated Tumblr before it was cool.
Yeah, that could be my slogan. I guess
Instagram?
If you do want to find, yeah, but mainly my Instagram is mainly just my art. I don't post video game chats and cosplays on there at all. But that would be MRB_artbase. That's all lowercase.
It will be in the show notes because I've already forgotten what you said, and I'm pretty sure I will have to remember it later.
Don't worry. But no, I've never had a cosplay page or any sort of thing like that because I think about it in the long term and day to day where it's a lot to upkeep and I've got stuff that I'd rather be spending my time on than updating a cosplay page for just 100 people or maybe a little bit more all the time. I'm just a hermit. That's basically me.
Listen, those Fortnite weekly challenges aren't going to complete themselves. He's got to really put the time in to get those Fortnite skins.
It's bold of you to assume that that's what I'm using my free time on. A lot of it is just playing video games and making a new costume.
It's playing Team Fortress 2, making hats for Team Fortress 2, and then Fortnite for the rest of your free time.
He's got me dialed in, despite the fact that I just told him I don't do that.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad we were able to finally get you on here. I can't believe we talked for 2 hours and we never even once talked about the fact that you've actually cosplayed SMT stuff before. So as we've mentioned, just okay, hold on. But what I want you to think of this. I'm going to tell you the question. Don't answer it until the very, very end, though. Pick your favorite and least favorite cosplay you've ever done and why. And that can be our outro. But everybody, Thank you so much for joining, whether it be live, edited, in the annals of history, or annals. I don't know what it's actually called. But thank you all. No, it's annals now. We've changed it. If you would like to think about Xenoblade Chronicles with us, like I do every single day when I talk to Marcus, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Torchwood4SP. The podcast that you've been listening to, which I promise is called Shin Megami Tensei Network, just forget all the other stuff we talked about, that can be found on Twitter at SMT Network. You can find the Facebook group by going to facebook.com/groups/SMT Network. There's a page there if you have a fear of commitment and just want to keep up to date with podcasts there. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you are listening to live if you want. So that is just called Spencer Presley, my name. So you can search either Shin Megami Tensei Network, find it that way, or just do all that fun stuff. There's also videos. My Strikers review should be up this weekend. Easter is just going to give me a asinine amount of free time, so that will finally be done, and then I can be free for a month, and then Nocturne will come out, and then I'll have to play Nocturne again, which, like, I don't even know, like, how long do you think a playthrough of Nocturne Remastered is going to be? Like, I haven't played the game in, like, a decade. I'm gonna bet I'd take at least, like, 50 hours to beat it. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probably the meat of the campaign, I'd say.
But yeah, so when I'm contemplating stuff like that, I like to post editorials on here, talking about things like SMT, Persona, PlayStation Vita, bad life decisions, or financial whatever things. Oh, I haven't talked about Steelbooks in a while. I was close, and then I broke up, and then I broke my back, and I couldn't talk about Steelbooks for a while. But
you're gonna read.
I know. I got a lot to talk about, but no one to listen to. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you would like to help support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/SMTN. That's patreon.com. Thank you so much to everybody who has donated on there. You can donate as little or as much as you want. Helps keep the show going, and I promise there will eventually be exclusive content on there. I'm just trying to think of, like, I'm in that weird phase of, like, with my full-time job and doing this podcast and doing videos and not ignoring my wife for more than 2 hours every week. Like, trying to think of stuff that, like, I can kind of spread out all the stuff evenly without it kind of feeling like anybody's getting gypped. But, yeah, the Patreon is very low pressure, but anyone who does help support me there is always super appreciated. Final thing, if you want to, please go check out the podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, any place you can, like, subscribe, review, rate it, spread the word. Everything like that helps. Super appreciated. But yeah, that's it. I gotta go grocery shopping. Marcus has got to go sleep at some point, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, that is the show. And before we say goodbye, Marcus, worst cosplay?
If I really have to think about it, it's probably the first proper one I tried to do, and that was like my budget Junpei from Persona 3.
Oh, now I want to see
where
a picture.
I could not grow facial hair for the bum fluff on his chin.
Did you just draw it in? I'm imagining like you had the little pencil for eyebrows. No,
I just left nothing there. I was also waiting on the Special Execution Squad armband. That didn't arrive, so I just made one out of an old shirt that I cut the sleeve away from.
What'd you do for the hat?
Just some random one I found on Amazon or something.
You weren't tempted to like try and like buy the pre-order bonus hat from the States?
Oh no, that's way out of my price range when I was like a broke 18-year-old.
Okay, and then best cosplay. It can be best or, like, most proud. It doesn't have to be, like, most impressive.
Well, I definitely say I'm most proud of Hisashura, especially when, like, the paintwork was so good and clean from assistance from a lovely sister. But, like, my Demonica build was half decent, considering the fact that, at the time, I had no idea how to use a Dremel with regards to prop building and costumes, and I sourced most of that stuff myself, and it was the first time I'd ever done like a proper foam build for cosplay, so it went pretty well considering all of that. I still actually have that Demonica helmet in my room on top of my games cabinet that I can always stare at in the corner. Just like think
you went from like can't even find an armband to like Demonica helmets.
Yeah, and I'm not done there. Like I will make another entirely new Demonica outfit from scratch. knowing that I'm much better with foam building and all of that jazz with costumes and cosplay and props. So it's a process. It's a very long process.
We're inching ever closer to finally living out our dream fantasy cosplay scenario of you and me hitting it up at Nando's as the Nandalorian.
Oh, very, very funny, yeah. And I can wear a Mandalorian outfit.
Exactly. It's on brand then. That's the only way you'll be allowed back, and it'll count as a mask.
It will, if we still have to be wearing masks at that point. Cause...
Oh, we're never taking them off. At this point, yeah, our kids are going to be born with masks on.
I guess with the rest of this year, they're definitely not coming off, no.
All right. Well, thank you once again. Thank you, everybody. We're not going to do our part where we say goodbye and then pretend the show dies. So goodbye, everybody. I will see you all next week.
Thank you very much if you listened all this way.
Somebody did. Somebody was dedicated enough. Some beautiful